Every sports fan and even most non-sports fans are familiar with ESPN. Those four letters have become synonymous with sports coverage. They stand for Entertainment and Sports Programming Network. They represent a titan in the sports industry. So, how exactly did this network become the worldwide leader in sports? Well, it didn't just happen overnight. Here's the story of ESPN. The story goes all the way back to 1978, when a guy by the name of Bill Rasmussen was fired from communications manager role for the New England Whalers. During his time as communications manager, Bill met Ed Egan, who was an insurance agent. Ed had pitched Bill on starting a monthly cable TV program that would cover Connecticut sports and primarily focus on the Whalers. While Bill getting fired from his job certainly threw a wrench in the potential plan, it allowed the duo to think bigger. Rather than just having one show, Bill set his eyes on creating an entire channel or network. Bill wasn't that well versed in cable TV at the time, though, so the pair consulted Ed's associate, Bob Bayes, who owned a video production company. The trio decided on the name ESP. ESP gained some steam as potential investors grew interested, but only 5 of the 12 local cable operators were on board with it. Those other 7 couldn't envision a successful future for a channel dedicated to just sports. Talk about a freezing cold take. After meeting with people from the Radio Corporation of America, the trio found out that it was less expensive to buy a continuous 24-hour satellite feed that would allow them to broadcast across the country than it would be to just send the signal across Connecticut via landlines. With this newfound discovery, Bill and his partners once again thought bigger and shifted their focus to creating a sports network that would air various sports-related programming nationally 24 hours a day. Sound familiar? Now, with a vision locked in, all they needed was a place for ESP's headquarters. As most people are probably aware, they decided on Bristol, Connecticut, as they bought a piece of land that had been built on a dump for $18,000. While I'm sure they had high expectations for what it would one day become, I can't imagine them having known that cheap land built on a dump would turn into a plaza which includes more than 1.3 million square feet in 19 buildings on 120 acres. In March of 1979, ESP signed an agreement with the NCAA that they would broadcast 18 different NCAA sports, including championship games, for 2 years. In May of that year, ESP received a significant investment of $15 million from Getty Oil. Not only did this give ESP much-needed financial aid, but it also gave them a ton of credibility. It played a role in Anheuser-Busch signing the largest advertising contract in cable TV history at the time, valued at $1.38 million with ESP. With a headquarters, TV rights contract, and a monster ad deal all secured, it was time for ESP to greet the nation. Bill Rasmussen wanted to distinguish the network from the big 3 letter networks of ABC, NBC, and CBS, so he changed ESP's name to ESPN. On September 7, 1979, ESPN debuted its first SportsCenter telecast. With an estimated 30,000 viewers tuning in for the launch, anchor Lee Leonard spoke the network's first words as he said, "If you're a fan, what you'll see in the next minutes, hours, and days to follow may convince you you've gone to sports heaven." Lee could have added years or decades to that sentence and still have been right, but what he said at the time was still probably viewed as a bold statement. Following this inaugural 30-minute SportsCenter broadcast, ESPN aired its first sporting event. I can confidently say that you will most likely not guess what sport it involved. The correct answer is men's professional slow-pitch softball. You are a day one ESPN fan if you knew that. ESPN actually struggled financially at the start. Anheuser-Busch acted as a savior of sorts for the network. In 1980, Anheuser-Busch's VP and Director of Marketing, Michael Rorty, persuaded his company to invest $1 million in ESPN. Rorty said, "We gave them $1 million that first year, and if we hadn't, they'd have gone under. The next year, we gave them $5 million. I think it turned out to be the best investment we've ever made." The network first dipped its toes into the professional sports waters when it was one of the earliest cable-based broadcast partners for the NBA from 1982 to 1984. Next was the USFL, which made its debut on ESPN and ABC. Speaking of ABC, they reached a deal with Getty Oil in 1984 to acquire ESPN, as ABC retained an 80% share with a 20% interest being sold to Nabisco. This was a major step in the network becoming what we're familiar with today. In 1985, ESPN acquired the NHL's national TV rights to replace USA Network. A couple of years later, ESPN gained the partial rights to the NFL. While Sunday Night Football is now associated with NBC, it actually began airing on ESPN in 1987. This partnership would last for 19 years before ESPN transitioned to airing Monday Night Football. But the initial Sunday Night Football broadcasts gave ESPN a lot of credit with TV watchers. The next professional sports league on the agenda for ESPN was MLB. The network signed a $400 million contract in 1990 to broadcast the league's games. Having succeeded in traditional TV broadcasting and airing major professional sports, ESPN decided to try to branch out and expand in the 90s. This would arguably be the decade that catapulted ESPN to the top of the sports media food chain. On New Year's Day of 1992, ESPN Radio was launched. ESPN Radio is still around today as the country's largest sports radio network, so that tells you something about its success and popularity. ESPN2 was launched in October of 1993, marking the transition to the network having a handful of channels for people to consume live sports and other related content. In 1996, they added the ESPN News Channel, and the following year, ESPN acquired the Classic Sports Network for $175 million and renamed it ESPN Classic. ESPN.com was launched in 1995 as the world's leading online sports service that is now home to the #1 fantasy football game. While all of this was going on, the network also went global as they established a new division called ESPN International. This allowed them to broadcast all over the world, from Latin America to Africa to Asia. In February of 1996, the Walt Disney Company purchased ABC for $19 billion, which obviously included their 80% stake in ESPN. This eventually led to ABC Sports and ESPN merging broadcasts. For example, sporting events shown on ABC are now labeled and described as ESPN on ABC. In April 2009, the network opened a broadcast production facility in downtown Los Angeles, right across from the Staples Center. It was a big deal that ESPN was stepping outside of its comfort zone in Bristol and going cross-country. A few months later, ESPN celebrated its 30th anniversary while demonstrating they never stop innovating as they premiered their 30 for 30 documentary series. In a more modern example of this innovation, ESPN launched ESPN Plus in April of 2018. It reaches 11.5 million subscribers and offers fans thousands of live events, on-demand content, and original programming not available on ESPN's linear TV or digital networks, along with premium editorial content. Today, ESPN and its channels are the hosts of a handful of big-time sporting events: Monday Night Football, the NBA Finals on ABC, the College Football Playoff, the Women's NCAA Basketball Tournament, the Masters, and the Little League World Series, to just name a few. To say the network has come a long way would be an understatement, and calling them the worldwide leader in sports is the perfect description. With over 40 years on the air, it's clear that ESPN isn't going anywhere anytime soon. When you think of sports coverage, you almost immediately think of ESPN, and there's a reason for that.